Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. Is doing the most important things alone a good idea? How comfy are you with your choices when it comes to life's biggest decisions? What is real peace of mind with financial confidence, and how can you get it? Kris Flammang and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. On the show, they bring together the best and brightest minds to share with you how to have a more confident financial picture. They empower listeners with simple, common sense and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts from LPF Advisors.
Hey, everybody. It's Kris. I'm your host here on the Confident Retirement Podcast. And I just wanted to take some time, maybe 10 or 15 minutes to kind of go through my review of the year, what I'm reminded of for 2022. Not really new things, but things that I was reminded of or that really played out and made a big impact, certainly in my business, the lives of my clients, and also the people that subscribe to the podcast. So surprise, if you don't know that we have a podcast, but it's been going for about a year and a half. I'm really enjoying it. And I want to thank everyone who's been a guest. I want to thank everybody who's listened. I want to thank everybody that's contributed. And I know I've learned a lot from the people that I've interviewed. And hopefully you'll be able to learn a lot from the episodes and check those out. And if you didn't know that we had a podcast, surprise, we do. And I hope you'll consider subscribing or checking through the various podcast sessions that we've done and looking at some titles that might be of interest to you and listening for just a little bit. Okay, so let's jump right in. These are 4 things I'm reminded of in review of kind of 2022. And it's not new stuff. Some of it I'm taking from a book that I previously wrote, but they are timeless principles. And a couple of them are financial. A couple of them are behavioral. So let's go through. So the first one is very important here. What I'm reminded of in 2022 is to have a war chest. A war chest is simply a substantial cash reserve, and substantial to you, which would maybe be 6 months to 12 months of cash reserve in your expenses in the bank, in savings, or something that's very accessible, that has no risk associated with it, that is guaranteed and liquid, that you have available to you as a cushion. I call it a war chest. Why? Because sometimes you go to war. So war would be bad economic times, or you have bad personal financial times. If you've got that war chest, if you have that savings there, if you have that cushion, then you can get through a lot of life's troubles from a financial standpoint, or things that might come your way, without having to go into debt or make some bad financial decisions in order to have to pay for things that might happen. Okay. So having a war chest, very important. Lots of different ways to fund that. You can do it with tax returns. You can do it with systematic savings. You can do it with windfalls from maybe an inheritance or money that comes your way that's unexpected. But get that 6 to 12 months of cushion there. Have the war chest. Trust me, people who have those have a much easier time of getting through bad financial times and things that are unplanned than they do if they don't have one. All right. Number 2, things that I'm reminded of in 2022, also a financial topic, is to have a plan in advance of trouble. All right. So a plan doesn't have to be a formal thing where you've written it down and it's a big book that has a whole bunch of pages that you have to thumb through. A plan is simply, what have you decided to do from a financial standpoint with your savings, with your insurances, with your protection, having that war chest, the investing that you're doing and how you're going about that. People who have a plan in place are often acting or reacting proactively versus reactively to what's happening with the markets. So if you've thought through or talked about the what-ifs that could take place, what if this happens in the markets? What if this happens with the economy? What if I lose my job? What if we have a big change in our financial situation? If you've discussed those things in advance, then you have talked about what you're going to do if they occur. And you'll feel much more confident about making decisions if you've talked about them before they happen. Someone coined the term pre-mortem. A pre-mortem is discussing everything that can go wrong before it does, and then talking about what you're going to do if it does occur. So then you have a plan of action in place already, and you're acting proactively rather than reactively out of emotion in a stressful time and potentially making a bad decision. Now, this applies to all kinds of things in life, but in regards to financial planning, having those plans, talking about those what ifs and discussing what you're going to do helps you to stay on track and not make an emotional decision based on what the president says or what's going on in Europe or what's going on with the markets. All right. So number 2 is have a plan in advance, talk about the what ifs, do that pre-mortem. So then you know how you're going to respond if those things occur. Okay. All right. Number 3, things I'm reminded of in 2022. Big premise. This is a behavioral one. And I've applied this to my life. And I try to encourage clients, people that I work with, to also focus on this. And that one is to control the controllables. Okay. Didn't make up the saying, didn't make up the term, but it's very applicable with what's going on right now. Focus on the things that you can control yourself rather than the stuff that you can't control. And then you'll feel like that you're making better decisions when you're going through those tough times or when something's happening, if you're focusing on the things that you can control. So let me give you an example. There's lots of stuff that we can't control. What's going on with interest rates? What's going on with the markets? What's going on with inflation? What's going on with the price of your home? The decisions that your adult kids decide to make, what the government might be doing. Those are all things outside of our control. Maybe you can do small things to influence them, but you can do very little to control them. All right. So I try to encourage people to control their personal finances, their personal financial decision, rather than opining or complaining or maybe worrying themselves sick about stuff that they can't control. So from a financial sense, we can control what we're saving. We can control the debt that we take on. We can control how we use our resources. We can control what our savings rate is. We can control our cushion. We can control whether we buy something or not. We can control how we invest. All right. So those are the things that we need to focus on. And we can't focus on those things that we can't control because otherwise we make ourselves crazy about the what ifs. And as most of us know, probably 70 or 80% of what we worry about never even happens anyway. And so you've wasted all that energy for no good reason. Okay. So we want to control the controllables. Okay. Number 4, things that I'm reminded of in 2022, and this is also behavioral, is to remember what's important and to know your why behind what you do, which is guided by your values. I have taken several clients through something I call a values conversation, where we discover their most important values, their top 5 values. Those are the things that are most important to them in life that they are going to make decisions guided by. I think it was Walt Disney who said, if your values are clear, your decisions are easy, right? There's a lot of truth to that. So we discover their top 5 values. And why that's important is because when they make life decisions, big life decisions, whether they're financial or it could be not financial, they can look at those 5 values, say, is this choice, is this decision that I'm about to make, is that guided or is that in alignment with what's important to me? What I've said is important to me. If it is, probably a good decision. If it's not, then I need to take a step back and evaluate whether that's really a good direction to go. Okay. So we start with that. What are the top things, my top 5 values that are really important to me? And what is my why behind existing or investing or living? Okay. We all need to have a why. And so when we identify that, when we can articulate it, when we know what our top 5 values are and our why behind what we do, then we can make better decisions. And for most people, when they talk about their top 5 values and their why, it has very little to do with money. Money is important to the degree that it allows them to have the lifestyle they want and to be able to do the things they want to do and to have the comfort to support family members and enjoy life. But generally speaking, money is not one of their top 5 values. So if it isn't, then we have to put it in its right place and remember what's important and remember what our why is, because that will guide our decisions. And also from a financial standpoint and investing standpoint, we can have a longer term perspective on what our reasons are for doing investment planning or doing financial planning or doing retirement planning. Because when we do that, it generally turns into a much longer time frame. And Lord knows that the media, the financial media, and the news does not want us to think in terms of long-term investing. They want us to think in terms of short-term, because that's what gets clicks and that's what sells magazines and articles, if they even have those anymore. So we want to go back to what's important, the why behind what you're doing, and focus on our values to keep those things in perspective. Okay. I hope this was helpful. So these were the top 4 things that I'm reminded of in 2022 that convict me. Hopefully you find them helpful also. I like to reflect. Hopefully it'll guide you in making some decisions going into 2023. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but I do want to promise you that I'll be here. We'll keep doing the podcasts. I'll keep doing these little reminders on a regular basis. And hopefully you get some guidance out of that. And also hopefully you are challenged to maybe think in a different way. And I, again, really appreciate you being either a client of mine or a guest who has been on the podcast. And I'm looking forward, hopefully, to a better 2023. Whether it's better or not, we'll all do this together. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll look forward to some new shows next year, some great guests, and I hope you have a great new year and a great holiday season. I truly appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship. Check out more podcasts below, and if you feel so inclined, please subscribe. This is Kris Flammang signing off for 2022. Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors, where we're hoping to raise the retirement confidence of everyday people to another level, one show at a time. Be well, take care, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Kris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.